It's my honor presenting before you, Puna ma'am. Let me begin. Yeah, let me begin by thanking Ashima for having me on board. Ashima, because I feel very passionate about the kind of work that you are doing. It has really come up very strongly in the last couple of days we are together that we need to bring a change in the system and in the social structure. And I think our younger generation is, they are the prime movers. So, as Dr. Seema Sharma also brought out, that we need to bring a change in the mindset. So, it's important for them to have a kind of balanced view of the situation that has emerged in our society, because tomorrow these are the people who are going to be enacting laws, executing laws. They are going to be as civil servants, they are going to be running NGOs. So it's important for them to kind of have a balanced view. So thank you very much for that. And also because I feel wholeheartedly happy, and because this is happening in collaboration with law school, and law school is very dear to me because that's where I began my career. So thank you very much for this opportunity. So friends, next 10 to 12 minutes that I'll be taking, being conscious of the fact that there are 3-4 more speakers lined up. I think whatever little I'm going to share with you is not something new. This has already come up in the discussion. It emerged twice today, and it has also come up in the discussions for the last couple of days. But what I'll do is I'll help you place the entire situation in a social context, because when we are talking about women and pandemic, it's important for us to kind of get a glimpse of how do we situate women in our social system. What is the position of women in Indian society? So to begin with, and one more thing, yes, this is whatever little I'm sharing with you is not something which has, I have got it directly from the field. No, I have taken all this from the secondary sources, because nearly two months back, I was in one of the webinars, but I had to really fall back on the researches carried outside India. But in the last 2 months, a lot has been written on women and pandemic. So that's a good thing. We can categorically talk and make forth our observation based on the data which has emerged in the last couple of months. So friends, first and foremost is that we have to understand how we situate women in the Indian social system. So patriarchy is something that I'm sure you all are familiar with. The tilt is towards men in our society when it comes to decision making, when it comes to division of resources, be it education, be it our economic resources, be it the position of the women in the society. Everything tilts towards men, to the extent that women's earnings in the family, even if she's earning equal to men, or she's earning maybe more than men, but her income is going to be considered as the secondary income for the family. And this is something which impacts all other domains, whether it is economic domain, whether there is any legal domain or whatever. So her position in the society is secondary. Now, second thing is that we also need to keep in mind is that, if you look at the women in the work sector, so women has played, she is on the margins, even if you look at the formal sector, so women constitute, there may be different data, but women nearly constitute only 30% of the workforce, in the formal sector. To put it more categorically, there was one of the surveys which was published by Hindustan Times, and it was based on the data collected by LinkedIn. So they say that out of the 115 industries, only 2 industries have equal ratio of men and women. So we understand that there is also a disparity in the formal sector. So women is generally, we see that maximum women are in the informal sector, and we all know that informal sector is somewhere is where you don't have regular income, you don't have for example, social security, you can be chucked out of the job anytime, and that this has something which is added to the kind of situation that emerged in the pandemic. So for example, so this is another dimension which we need to keep in mind when we are talking about women in pandemic. Another thing is that your caste, your religion, for example, plays a very important role. So what I'm trying to tell you is that when we are talking about women and pandemic, we need to understand that the consequences, the impact is not equal on all type of women. For example, a woman who is in the formal sector, she has some sort of security. Her regular income has not been affected. Has not been affected. But if a woman, she's in the informal sector, she lost her job. For example, we see our, house helps, they lost the job completely, lost their work completely. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this, this impact is basically, it cut across your it goes beyond your just being a woman. So what type of women you are, where you are placed along the social ladder, what is your economic positioning in the system, to which caste you belong to. Somebody just made a reference of a Wuhan virus. So you see, there is also a stigma which is related to it. There is also a kind of racism element which has come about it. So this is when we are trying to look at this whole situation, these are some of the parameters which have to be kept in mind. Now coming to the specific impact, I think a lot of speakers till now has they've brought out that there is an element of domestic violence. So globally, this has really gone up to the extent that the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres, he had to kind of outrightly come out and say that, to put it within the quote, he said we need to put a ceasefire on this the upsurge which has taken place as far as the domestic violence cases are concerned. Also, to put it more categorically, I think Dr. Seema Sharma also mentioned some of the observations and made by the National Commission for Women. Between one of the studies has brought out that between March 9th and April 1. So there was, related to domestic violence cases, there was a surge, these cases nearly doubled. So from 30 to nearly 69, So this is something that we need to keep in mind, that how domestic violence cases have really gone up. And this is something we need, this another factor which is related to this is that not all the cases are reported, because sociologists like Patricia Roy, they've carried on a lot of work on this, and they say that, family is considered to be a place of honor. It's something to which our izzat is related. It's something to which symbolizes who we are. So it's very difficult for women to really come out and complain that they are undergoing some kind of domestic violence. So that means whatever is reported is just a glance of what is really happening in the society. Okay. So another thing is that the house domestic work, it's also not equally divided in our systems. Domestic work is considered to be a women's domain. Now, to put it more categorically, in the normal circumstances, women they spend 352 minutes, and this is based on one of the studies, the 352 minutes a woman spend on her domestic work. Now, this is 577% more than the contribution made by men, which is 52 minutes per day. All right. So this is something I'm talking about the general times. Now you understand that when the families, they get together, so this is again another observation which has been made, that when the families get together, the incidence of violence against women goes up. So similar kind of situation we also saw in India when the Honorable Prime Minister, he announced the lockdown. The families got together. Men lost the work, women lost the work. They all got together. Children got to stay at home. The another dimension which added to the problem is that women had to also look after the homeschooling. So homeschooling is like 80% of the studies are showing that 80% of the burden of homeschooling is lie on women. All the men are trying to play the part, but significantly the responsibility is with the women. So you understand that when now everything is within the household, so in such cases it is likely that the domestic violence cases have gone up. Another thing is that somebody talked about stigma. I think somebody mentioned about stigma, etc. So definitely, when these migrant workers, there was also a mention of migrant workers when they were going homes, both men and women, how they were treated. So they the kind of untouchability or the stigma which was related to the untouchability earlier, that got over. Nobody talked about that. But when these people, they went to the villages, the migrant workers, there was a kind of new kind of segregation that emerged in the society, and that was Pravasi and the Nivasi. So Nivasi is the native, of the villages, and Pravasi is somebody who's coming out, who's coming inside the villages. So they were like treated like untouchable. So both men and women were subjected to this kind of ostracism in the in the villages, in the rural settings. Another thing which I think has not come up in any of the speakers have not mentioned about is the incidence of child marriages going up. So there is this also talks about that another dimension, that the this touches upon the human rights violations. When you are married off before the age of 18, this is like a violation of human rights. So United States, one of the reports on sexual and reproductive health, yes. So they've just come out with a recent report, and they said there is a kind of deviation of funding, etc., which is happening. So they say that the kind of effort which was being made to mitigate the impact of mutilation of genitals of women, as well as the what you call the child marriages in India, this is going to get a back seat. So I think this is really traumatic, because in India, you see, like they say, this is again the data of the United Nations. They say that of the what you call the three brides, the child brides in the world, one is from India. So you understand that it's something unthinkable that today also in states like Bihar and Rajasthan, we have these incidences which is still happening. So you understand like what is the blow. And they say that around 3 million what you call child marriages is likely to happen in the next coming 10 years. So which which also tells us that the impact of the pandemic is not something which is going to be over within a couple of months or something. It's going to have long drawn impact, and that kind of puts a lot of responsibility on us as academics, on us as researchers, to bring out what impact it is having, because that's the only way we can put pressure on the government to see to it that the funding which is to go towards maintaining these schemes, etc., is not stopped at any cost. So I think these are some of the things that primarily which have come up. And of course, there has also been a mention of how the women have been targeted, attacked, because women are, even in the formal sector, they are at the margins. For example, they are like nurses to the doctors, they are assistants to the master weavers. In the agriculture, they are like, playing the role of the agriculture labor, etc., etc. So we see that, that all this put together, all these impacts that we are talking about, we need to look at in a very holistic manner, because one thing, it's like a rhetoric, one thing leads to the other. Say, for example, when we talk about child marriage, so it's not just about child marriage, when the women is going to get married in a age which is a very fertile age, it's likely that she'll have continuously she'll go on delivering birth to the children. Now, the prime driver of child marriage is also the poverty. So people losing jobs, men losing job, women losing job. So there is economic burden on the family. So And if a woman gets married at an early age, she may have complications in the pregnancy. It can be a threat to her own life. What you call, she may have children who may be malnourished or something. So you understand, like, the cycle, the vicious circle, which one thing is leading to. So I think what we need to is that we need to really understand all these things in a very, very holistic manner, because it is socio-economic, everything, all these elements are basically very, very closely related to each other. There is also another, there's another dimension, or what you call, another part of my presentation today was like looking at the how do we address, basically, what is the fallback when women are suffering, this domestic violence is going up. So what is the fallback? I think something like Dr. Seema Sharma really brought out, but I think I'm a little conscious of the fact that we have more presenters, so maybe I can take up that part if it comes up for the discussion. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Thanks a lot. Over to you, ma'am. Poonam ma'am, are you there? Yeah, I think she's there. Yeah.
I'm there, but the video. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sapna. It was a pleasure listening to you. You have raised many important questions. We are living in challenging times, and the entire gambit of the problem, the way it's connected, and the way it's manifesting itself, needs to be readdressed and needs to be understood. And you have rightly said that that sensitization, where the questions, those questions have to be asked, which are actually not asked. And there are lots of women on the periphery, on the margin, are something very nice point that you have raised, and I think it's a very important point, where you said that caste, religion, race, class has to be again re-looked at from the gender lens, because it's throwing open many more new challenges to us. So thank you so much for your presentation, and I'm sure in the course of discussion